Welcome to the Android Police Podcast. I am Ryan Whitwam.
I'm Cody Toombs.
And I'm Corbin Davenport.
And this week we thought that a lot did not happen, but a lot did happen. A lot of things happened. So strap in, get ready. Gonna be a big one. Starting with Android Auto. We're going alphabetically, I think. Android Auto. So there's a new one, a new version of Android Auto. The first major update since Google released this in 2015. When they said, hey, this thing will update automatically. You don't have to wait for car manufacturers to fix their interfaces. And then they went 4 years without updating it. But it's updated now. It's very different. We have several posts on this that you should look at on the site. Long story short, darker app list, widescreen support, better navigation bar. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this, and kind of in their defense, I don't think that the interface you're using in your car should really change all that much with any frequency. So I'm kind of good with having a really slow update cycle in that regard. I would have liked to see certain, we'll say bug fixes and common sense changes. Those should have happened a lot sooner.
I wouldn't mind if we went a year or two between UI changes, if it worked well. But I mean, Android Auto was only useful in that it was better than the god awful things that automakers tend to put in cars.
Agreed completely.
And it was in need of a fresh coat of paint, and now it has that, and it's mostly an improvement. I really like the new navigation bar. I've been using it in my car for about a week and a half now. It's so nice. You can control playback from the map. If you're listening to music, there are play, pause, and skip buttons at the bottom. It's great, and you can also switch back and forth between apps with the buttons down there. So if you jump into your music player, your directions, if you're navigating, will pop up on the bottom. You can switch back to the map. It's just it makes a lot of sense. And then putting doing the app list on the home screen makes a lot of sense too, because you actually it helps surface all of the apps you have that support Android Auto instead of just sort of stumbling upon them when you open the music app switcher or something that was hidden behind a double tap before.
Yeah. So regarding the nav bar, for sure, this is something I complained to them about at I/O the first time I was there when they announced Auto. It's why is the map screen there and you don't have playback controls on your screen? And I've nagged them about this every year that I've ever talked to them. So yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. The app list, I don't know. I mean, I think it's good that it's there, but I feel a little ambivalent about it. It's not, I don't feel like it really brings all that much more than there already kind of was.
So before the home screen, it was basically a list of notifications. And one thing that I'm not crazy about is that they basically canned all of those contextual notifications you would get before. So
right,
if you had searched for an address recently or gotten a phone call recently, those would appear on the home screen as notifications. I do like that there's a notification hub. That's something I've been complaining about for years. So all of the notifications you get go into that. You would access it with a little bell icon at the bottom. And that makes it way easier to manage, any number of conversations greater than one.
Now, does the notification center still not show all notifications?
It's just the ones that plug into Auto, which I understand because Android phones get a lot of notifications, and it would probably be confusing if you were getting things that were very phone specific on your car.
Yeah, well, it would still be nice if I could, kind of and I think Samsung smartwatches do this, where you have to, unless you hit the box to check all of them, you have to pick each app you want to get notifications from.
So thanks to Mountain True 42 for subscribing on Twitch.
Oh, thank you.
I
for
think
7 months.
7 months. Geez, I think that Google sees Auto as a very mass market product, and putting something in there like a notification app list would probably, would probably be too confusing, I think. Because I think Android Auto is is interesting to people because like everybody has it now. If you've bought a car in the last couple of years, you probably have Android Auto. A lot of people use Android Auto who know next to nothing about their phone. Like you just plug it in and it's a thing. It happens. And if there are all these other settings you have to go through to make notifications work, then I don't know if people would really use it as much.
Maybe. I don't know. It does kind of annoy me that if I want to get like messages from friends or family or whatever, I have to use either messages or Hangouts. Are there any other big ones that support
well, I
it?
mean, there are, like there are a fair number of apps that support, like Telegram does.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure WhatsApp does, maybe.
Yes.
No.
But
Pretty sure.
Well, those are all things I don't use.
I would like to be able to like manually include more apps. Like I would like to get Slack notifications in the car, but I mean, I wouldn't like to, but
I was going to say, you say that now, but just imagine what would happen.
It's like I use Slack for like personal things too, because I know a lot of people who have to be in Slack all day anyway. But
just it'd be nice if it's just worked with any notification that had that reply function.
I guess that could be one way to filter it. Yeah, but I mean, I guess but I do understand why it works like that. But I do wish that I had the old contextual notifications back. If they could just like, I don't know, put those at the top of the notification up or something, that would be great.
So just regarding the old contextual notifications, one thing that always drove me crazy is some of them disappeared at really dumb times. The one that always jumps to mind is actually the playback controls. I would hop in the car, start driving, and when it would first start showing you those notifications, it would have basically like a notification there. You could start playing the last music you had on. And if you took more than, I want to say it was like 2 minutes to reach up and do anything with it, it would just vanish. And it's like, right about the time that I want to start playing something, that's when it goes away.
It was like the Wear OS 2.0 approach to playback control.
I guess I don't remember actually using playback controls much from Wear OS.
That's because they would always fall down to like the bottom of your notification stack for no apparent reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I the few times I did use it, I didn't have a problem with it, but I don't remember using it that much. It was kind of one of those novelties that was there for a little while, and then I just stopped caring.
Yeah,
so hey, auto is better, presumably.
Yeah, it's rolling out now. It started on what was it, Tuesday? It is making its way out slowly. We have the APK you can download, and for some people that'll make it work. But there's a server side switch like at the account level 2, so not everybody who installs that is going to get the new interface right away. But you can get one step closer, I guess, if you install that. Google said it'll be on all phones in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I will say I am hoping that this is the beginning to opening up new types of apps, because it's getting really exhausting that it's only messaging, calling, and audio.
Yeah. So what else would you do in the car?
So I've actually had a lot of conversations with people, some of which very closely tied with the Android Auto team, and I've kicked around a few different ones. But I'll throw out 2 right now. These are, to me, like the most obvious things that just need to be there. One of them, a note-taking app. And that's something presumably Google Assistant is supposed to be able to do, but of course Google Assistant in the car does not do that. So, if you're driving, that is definitely the one time you should not be trying to write or type on your phone or do anything like that. You should just be able to tell your car, hey, make a note. I need to pick up milk. I need to do this. A book idea, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is something you should just have in your car.
Yeah, I feel like that would be easier to implement now with the app list, because there are things in the app list that are not technically apps. They're like assistant functions, like the calendar and news. They have little like assistant badges. You tap those and they do the thing, like if you used a voice command. So they could have a thing that's just take a note, and you tap it and you say a thing and it makes like a keep note or whatever.
So yeah, the other one, and this one is so obvious the moment you hear it, they need to have a mileage tracker, basically. So for corporate use, or if you're doing any sort of like business travel and it's in a vehicle that you use for personal use too, a lot of times you need to record your business miles. If you could just basically hit a button on the card, just start recording your miles. And it could also be obviously voice activated. Either way, this is an app that they're never going to provide. It doesn't fit into any of the things that already exist. And I cannot think of any way that the interface would have to be difficult enough that you couldn't just use it with a single button push. So which would inherently make it easier to use than any of the other apps that are already there.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
I guess we'll move on from Android Auto. We'll go to the next letter in the alphabet after we talk real briefly about Twitch, which is the thing that we're streaming on right now. You might have heard about it. It is an internet platform where people mostly play video games, I'm told, and other people watch them play video games. This is something kids are into. But there are also podcasts on it, like this one right here. And if you are watching us on Twitch, good. If you're not, you should be, because that is also where you can subscribe to us at twitch.tv/Android Police. If you are an Amazon Prime member, you can subscribe for free. It costs you nothing, but Amazon gives us money, and that helps us keep doing the show. So all you have to do is link your Amazon account to Twitch. We have instructions on how to do that on our Twitch page. And when you subscribe, you also get a rhyme face emoji for use in the chat room, which is more fun than it sounds like. It's a pretty weird emoji. It's great. Also, if you subscribe during the show, you will see, like Toesaurus just did in the chat. If you subscribe during the show, a Pixel 3 XL notch will come down and block part of the screen with your name on it. I don't know what we're going to do, after when the Pixel 4 comes out. Like, are we just going to blank out the whole top of the screen like a full width notch?
Actually, I think we need to make air gestures.
Okay,
wave away the alerts.
Yes.
But also, if you have subscribed in the past, you might have to do so again because subscriptions have to be renewed every month. So check the page; it will tell you if you need to resubscribe. And again, it's free. If you're on Amazon, if you have Amazon Prime, you pay no extra money. We get money. It's good for everybody. And with that, let's move on to we're just going to real quickly talk about T-Mobile and Sprint. And this is not alphabetical order, Corbin. I told you to alphabetize this.
I'm sorry.
This is T and S, which is not. We're so far. Okay, but so yeah, right after the podcast last week, the T-Mobile Sprint deal was officially given the okay by the Justice Department. Several of the states that were suing individually to block it have dropped it. I don't know if any more have since then, but it's kind of a foregone conclusion now that this is going to happen. So the new T-Mobile is selling some 800 megahertz spectrum and Boost Mobile to Dish. So Dish is going to kind of sort of maybe be a carrier. T-Mobile agrees to let Dish have access to its network for a few years while it builds out 5G, supposedly. We'll see how that goes. But this is happening. We're going to be down to 3 carriers and Dish, whatever Dish is. I don't know.
Or 3 carriers and whoever buys Dish.
Yeah, let's face it. Dish wants to get bought. Dish does not want to actually be a carrier. I wonder if AT&T or Verizon will try to buy them. I mean, it would be tough, even with the very permissive regulatory framework we have right now. It was difficult for T-Mobile and Sprint to merge, and they basically mandated the creation of a 4th carrier, however weak it may be. I don't know if any version of the U.S. government would allow one of the big carriers to gobble up that 4th carrier right away. They're probably hoping that some other large company like Comcast or something will just come along and buy them so they don't have to worry about actually, living up to their end of the deal.
Well, a blindly optimistic part of me wishes that this would at least maybe turn into a reshuffling of spectrums, since Dish just has so much of it, and there would be ways to move a few things around.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting even more of it that they're not using. It's gonna take years. I mean, they're building out 5G, like they're starting at 5G, and I don't think they have any. Well, they probably have some. I don't know. I don't think they have very much mid-band spectrum, if they have any. So they've got this new low band that they got in the deal, which is not great for 5G. It can help fill in coverage gaps, but I mean, it's going to take a while for them to build out, a 5G network that is in any way comparable to the remaining big 3 in any fashion, in any location.
Yeah, without a good tower build out, it's kind of a non-carrier that's going to pretend to be a carrier if they try to be a carrier at all.
Yeah,
Um,
we don't even know what business model they'll do, if anything. I know
well,
there was some speculation that they might do just an Internet of Things network for connected appliances and that kind of thing, but I mean, we just don't know yet.
I'm
I mean,
genuinely
I
curious if Boost Mobile will be around in a year.
I haven't like read the the full like documents in detail, but my understanding was that they had to actually be a consumer carrier, like they had to sell mobile service to people.
Hmm.
But to be fair, like that's one of those things that's sort of like agreeing to, I don't know, always always be respectful and throw your trash in trash bins when you're walking on the street. You certainly should do it. It's the right thing to do. And there's not a good argument not to do it, but that doesn't mean people do it. And
Yeah, I'm
Dish
sure
is
that
one of those companies that could very easily flaunt
they
that
could
rule.
probably find some way to get away with it. Because let's face it, like the FCC has let them sit on this spectrum for years, and they didn't get in trouble. So I don't know. I mean, like before now, like Dish had almost as much spectrum as T-Mobile, and they were doing nothing with it. So who even knows? But we don't need to get into the weeds with this. We've talked about it every week, I think, for probably the past month or two. So it happened. It pretty much the way we heard it was going to happen. So if you want to read it all again, there's an article on the site. You can go and check that out. What we are going to talk about though is the Pixel 4, which Google has again given us details on. They're not. They've had enough of the leaks this year. They're just doing it themselves. So before they showed us a picture of the back of the phone. They tweeted it. This time, there are pictures of the front of the phone. There's a video. There are details about why the top bezel is so big. So basically, it's got a bunch of face sensors on the front. It has face unlock. It has a Project Soli or Soli. I don't know. I don't remember the pronunciation. That radar chip with the gestures. It's got one of those in it. And I don't know. How are we feeling about this?
Well, now we know why they didn't go with a notch. It wasn't because people complained, like I think a
Well,
lot of
they
people
did.
assumed.
They did. It's just a full width notch.
That's true. Yeah, but no, they went with this because there was no way they could shove all of this in a notch, and it wouldn't be smaller than what came on
Yeah,
last
like
year's Pixel.
they posted like an image of like the front of the phone, like with the bezel stripped away to show you all the sensors. It's almost the entire width of the phone.
Yeah.
So, all right. So there's one front facing camera, which is interesting because last year they added the secondary wide angle camera. We don't know if like this is just going to be a wide angle camera and they'll like crop it down and like correct for distortion to make it a regular image if you want that. I don't know, but there's just the one. There's an ambient light proximity sensor. Obviously, there's the earpiece. Then there are two face unlock IR cameras, a dot projector, and a flood illuminator for face unlocks, like a wide angle like IR lamp, and the Soli radar chip. So there's a lot of stuff on this phone that has to do with face unlock, and we know from the last leak there is no fingerprint sensor on the back. They didn't mention anything about a fingerprint sensor in the display, which I feel like they would have if it were there. So I think Google is going full Apple on this one. I don't think there's going to be a fingerprint sensor.
I mean, I definitely agree with you. And as I've been saying for the last few days, I'm hoping that they go with an under display fingerprint reader just because. But yeah, the odds do
It
look
would be
bad.
nice. It would be nice to have the option, but I feel like if they go to this much effort to do face unlock, and we already know that Android Q has has the APIs to make face unlock a secure method, like it'll work with Google Pay and everything. I feel like they're going full face unlock on this.
Yeah, the thing that makes me feel okay is that there's still like Google has been very forward with releasing. I don't want to call them leaks; they're just releasing information. But they definitely haven't released everything yet. We still know very much, basically nothing about the cameras on the back. We don't know. We don't really know enough about the camera on the front either. But at this point, we've got a fair idea. It's a wide angle, but there's still a lot we don't know, and I'm kind of thinking we might just not know yet that there's a fingerprint reader on the front.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. I'm not ruling it out, but I would be surprised at this point. I think it's going to come down to whether or not Google has nailed Face Unlock. I mean, I've used an iPhone X, briefly, obviously not like as my daily driver, but I've played with the Face Unlock stuff, and it's it's okay, but it doesn't work as well as Apple's promo images would make you think. Like, you can't like leave it sit on your desk and just sort of like peek over the edge and like and unlock it. It's not that wide of a field of view. I feel like Google really has to make the Face Unlock great for me to not be upset that there's no fingerprint sensor.
Yeah, completely agreed. I almost every friend I have that has an iPhone, they all have I'm not going to say negative things to say about the Face ID, but none of them seem thrilled about it.
I have been in the presence of multiple iPhone people who I've watched like yell at their phone when it doesn't recognize them. Like,
okay, I have seen that too.
And they like shout, they like look at me or something at their phone, like that's gonna help. Like, I'm sure it works way better than any other Face Unlock system has, but it's still it's not as reliable as a good fingerprint sensor.
Yeah, and there's also the balance of security versus convenience, because like the OnePlus 6, I think that was one of the first Android phones we saw with like this kind of Face Unlock, but it was just with the one front camera.
Yeah,
like, that's not as secure as like what Apple does, where like beam dots on your face.
The worst thing about Apple going to Face ID is that every Android manufacturer wanted to like copy it, but they didn't have the hardware, so they were all like, "We're just going to do it with the camera." Fine, right? Which isn't fine. No, it's bad. 2D Face Unlock is not secure. It is a bad bad thing that they should not be encouraging people to use. Yeah. But I mean, the Pixel 4 is going to have 2 cameras and the dot projector to like map your face, and like the illuminator. Like, it's got a lot of hardware. Presumably the dual IR cameras will make it pretty accurate. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But the radar chip, we saw hints earlier this year that Google was still working on this. They got clearance from the FCC to run higher power radar through those than they were otherwise allowed to do, and because of that, so the frequencies that they're running solely at, they're regulated at the national level, so not all countries will get this, unfortunately. So what do they call this? They call it motion sense. Yes, motion sense. You're going to be able to like make gestures at your phone. So they showed like skipping songs. And I think they said you'd be able to do a couple of other things.
Answer calls, I know, is one of them.
Like silence alarms or timers. So it's pretty basic stuff. It's not like in the original demo at I/O, they had people like twisting little invisible knobs. Yep. So you can't do any of that. It's not quite there yet.
Well,
but they said
maybe. We don't actually know. They're just doing this.
Yeah, they said that this will evolve over time, and Soli also plugs into Face Unlock, so that if the phone is just sort of sitting on a table and you reach for it, it will detect your hand sort of reaching for the phone, and it will wake up the IR cameras to unlock faster when you pick it up, which is cool.
Yeah. So two thoughts. One, I'm curious if people will find out some way to hook into this directly, and we'll see people making crazy Tasker profiles where they do like sign language to access like one specific app.
I hope. I'm actually kind of interested if so if you get this phone and like you buy it in the US, it has all the radar stuff. If you like go to like a European country, is it just going to shut off? Like, is it that tightly regulated?
Yeah, radar has been extremely regulated in almost every country, as far as I'm aware of.
Yeah, we looked up the frequency this works, and I forget what it was. It's a really high frequency. It's like higher than millimeter wave 5G. Like, it's way up there.
Yeah. So and to that note, though, of course, the disclaimer that a lot of people caught on to very quickly is that motion sense isn't going to be available in every country. The counter to that, though, is it's going to be turned off by software. So if Google ever gets permission to use those frequencies from a phone, they'll be able to turn it on in those countries pretty much on the spot. So this is a thing that even if you don't get it on day one, you might get it, 6 months out or something like that.
That's a pretty big maybe though.
It
And
is,
especially like I know I saw people complaining that Google will inevitably sell this in countries where, I mean, the promo video said they'll probably sell it in countries where they can't activate the radar, and people will be paying full price for the phone that has only half the unlock functionality as
Oh well, I mean
another.
that's not fair. They'll pay more than full price because
Yeah.
you're buying in a country.
Yeah. You have to take out a loan, yeah. So that kind of stinks. I guess maybe Google could make a different SKU that just had all this removed and sell that,
Yeah.
but they're not going to go through that much.
Oh,
effort.
they're definitely not going to do it. Okay,
No.
so also, if anybody's interested, Soli works in in an ISM band, an industrial, scientific, and medical band, which is loosely regulated, but they're in the 61 gigahertz band, which is subject to local government acceptance. There are others that are just open, but they're much lower frequency. So they needed this higher frequency to get enough resolution on like your hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait for every review of this to be filled with complaints. Oh, I can't use the Soli radar in Bulgaria.
I mean, let's not come down on our Bulgarian listeners. I mean,
No, we love our Bulgarian listeners the most.
all two of them.
Yes,
and
and
so with all this said, it's also worth noting. I'm predicting it's going to take no more than a week before somebody at XDA has hacked this thing. So like a simple enabler will just turn it on anywhere and everywhere.
I mean, you might need like root or something, but
oh yeah, I imagine.
Deal on a Pixel.
But yeah, I don't think that this is going to be like completely stopped where people want to make sure it's active.
Now, maybe Google, I don't think they'll go through this much effort, but I do wonder if maybe they're tying it into the secure chip that's on the Pixel, where like if your OS doesn't pass safety net or something, you can't access it. I don't know if they'll go through that much effort, but that could be maybe.
Honestly, that really wouldn't be that much effort.
Yeah.
They already have the safety net stuff done. It's really just making sure that the software that runs motion sense.
Well, I imagine it'd be like a couple companies sell laptops with like physical hardware switches for Wi-Fi and that kind of thing, where when you switch, it just actually cuts off the physical connection. They could do something like that. It'd be a real jerk move, but they could do it. And also the second thing is, I would love for Google to partner with like Instagram and Snapchat, so that this phone, like one of the selling features would just be like the most incredible like AR selfie emojis that are possible on consumer technology. That'd be pretty wild. It'd be like it'd be almost as weird as the Galaxy S10 announcement that had all the Instagram ads in it.
I don't remember.
I don't know that one.
All right, fair enough. But I want to see some crazy stuff with this.
That would be awesome. And Google has really picked up its advertising, so I knew something was going to wake up on eventually. But yeah, their advertising has gotten a lot more interesting. So who knows? We'll probably see something pretty cool with it. I mean, they're already putting out an ad for a phone that doesn't exist yet. So
yeah, and speaking of crazy things, the NVIDIA Shield now has Android Pie, making it maybe the longest supported Android device ever, possibly.
Yeah, we should look into this and find out if it actually is, but it's definitely in the running. More than 4 years now, this thing has been getting updates. And yeah, Pi has been out for a while. Android Q is going to be out in a few weeks or whatever. But, I don't think there are any Android devices from 2015 still getting updates other than the Shield. So the Shield 2015 and the 2017 version, they're both basically the same piece of hardware. They're just like, some of the bits are different around that. So they both get the update. So, the Shield that you bought in 2015, I actually have one right over here from 2015. Got the update yesterday. It's it's Pie, but it's Pie on Android TV, so it doesn't look much different. There's not a whole lot going on. It's like whatever. It has new security patches. There are a few differences in the settings. There's some HDR changes. It's nothing major. It's just nice that NVIDIA is keeping up with it.
Well, security patches are never going to be turned away, and a lot of the changes really support basically features that are part of newer TVs. So, um, like the HDR switching, for example, it's stuff that they obviously couldn't have included years ago when the standards weren't even set for that. It's great that they're covering it.
Yeah, it's nice, and it makes me wish Nvidia still made other types of Android devices, but they probably won't.
Yeah. And I don't know that they could have done this with other types of devices. I'm sure they would have covered anything at least a little bit better than a lot of OEMs have. But to be fair, the Shield came out with just it was hardware that was so far ahead of what any other Android device was shipping with. So much more power, and
and
a very dedicated
so
purpose.
they didn't have to worry about battery life. So that thing just runs flat out.
Yeah, they get to do a lot more with that, and the much more limited purpose of it also makes sure that they don't have to deal with weird cellular issues. I don't even want to list all of it, but it's a lot easier to support this.
Yeah, and it's easier, but I know most of that applies to like the Shield tablet too. I think the Shield tablet ran the Tegra chip before this.
Yes, it was the K1.
The K1, yeah, and that also got updates for a really long time. I think I think it went from like KitKat to Oreo, something like that. It had a good run, and I'd probably buy one if they came out with a new one, just because.
What would you do with an Android tablet though?
I would maybe sometimes stream games from my computer, but mostly just Hulu in bed. That's it. That's all I use tablets for.
It has a support cycle that long. What you would do with it is go up to every person with an iPad that's flaunting how long their support cycle is and say, no, we got one too.
Yeah.
And then you would lower your face and look sad when they start telling you everything they can do on their iPad.
And then I'll get a pie in my face when I try to go resell it 2 years later and it's worth nothing and the iPad is still worth its original price.
Goodness.
Yeah.
But sad, but true.
Good job, NVIDIA. Okay. And also, one thing that lets NVIDIA do this is because they have the system on a chip. They make all the binaries. They're not, they're not bowing before Qualcomm, hoping they'll release new binaries for the new Android version. They can just pump it out all day.
Speaking of Android tablets, Samsung has just announced another expensive one. And I just want to point out that Corbin put Tab T6 on the list, which is not a thing, Corbin.
I'm sorry. It's the new
Tab S6.
It's the new Terminator.
The Terminator tablet. The Tab S6. They skipped S5, right? So there's the S5e. That's like the mid-tier Samsung tablet they launched, I think, early this year.
Yes.
But at any rate, the S6 is the new high end. It's so if you recall, Samsung's premium tablets the last few years, they've been at least a generation behind on like the internal hardware, which apparently irked people who buy Android tablets because people still do, and when they do, they're very picky people, I guess. So Samsung said they got a lot of feedback last time about that. So this time, the Tab S6 has the newest processor. It's an 855, just like the Galaxy S10. It has 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs or 256 gigs of storage. It's got a 10.5-inch 1600p OLED screen. There's a fingerprint sensor in the display, so none of that weird like iris scanner off to the wayside like on the last one. It has a dual camera array on the back because Samsung says a lot of people take photos on their tablets, which
I think they're fibbing.
I mean, maybe they're just flat out lying. I don't know, but they swear.
Well, it used to be a thing with iPads. Maybe they're just pretending that they were the iPad seller.
Well, iPads, they have the actual iPhone cameras on them. Like the Pro takes just as good pictures as the new iPhone.
Okay, so Samsung said that the S Pen stylus has been improved. It has Bluetooth like the Note 9 last year, so you can do you can advance slides or launch apps or launch the camera if you really want. And it connects to the back of the tablet magnetically to charge, which is it's cool. They said it takes 10 minutes to charge, and that's enough to use quote unquote all day. It's probably you could probably drain it in like a minute or two if you just kept pressing the button, just like with the Note 9. Like you can drain the battery on that really fast if you just use it nonstop. There's gonna be another keyboard dock for it. They've improved it this year with a trackpad. Thank goodness.
Yeah, why was it gone?
Yeah,
I
I mean, I don't know. It was
I don't
very
get
weird.
my Asus Transformer pad from 2014 or whenever those were made had a trackpad. It was a really bad keyboard and trackpad, but it was on there.
Yeah. So I mean, but they say this when I guess supposedly the keys are better. It has function buttons, including one that toggles Dex mode on and off, which seems cool. That might be useful, but it is another $180 on top of the tablet, which is $650. It's a lot.
The keyboard is 180.
It is. It is $180. If you buy it at launch, you can get the keyboard for $90. If that's what you're
probably
into.
the most I'd pay for.
$180 for a keyboard dock for your.
That's a lot. Was it the Microsoft Surface Go that had a $200 keyboard?
I think so.
I'm trying. Maybe Samsung's trying to get in on that.
I mean, I think what it is the margins on the keyboard are really good, and most people who buy this tablet probably buy the keyboard. They're probably seeing very, very high conversion of like Tab S buyers to like Tab S and keyboard buyers.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like a really nice tablet. I'd like to try it. I don't really have I don't really have $650 to burn on an Android tablet at the moment. But
I mean, if you're the kind of person who wants this tablet, you probably already know that you want it. You probably have a specific use case, like you need to take notes or something or draw, and you don't want to use an iPad for some reason. That's who's buying this tablet.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if you just want a tablet and a stylus, like you should just buy an iPad and an Apple Pencil. I mean, the app support is so much better, so much.
And given the price of this, you can actually get a Pro iPad with stylus support for less.
Could you? How much is the?
I think you'd have to go generation back, but yeah.
Oh well, the Pros are new, aren't they?
Well, they've had Pros for a while.
Gen. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I guess
they're on
even
the second gen Apple Pencil now, so I mean, they've gone long enough with the Pros to have actually revamped the Pencil.
Yeah, I do. It is still a little bit weird to me that even though Chrome OS on tablets is not great, I would have expected Samsung to make some kind of Chrome OS tablet by now. Especially since they have not, as far as I know. And it's that kind of struck me as weird because if you remember about 2 years ago when they released the Chromebook Plus and Pro, those were like the flagship Chrome OS devices for a solid year. And those were the first that like officially launched with the Play Store in the stable channel. So they've been on the cutting edge for Chrome OS for a while now. It seems weird they don't have a tablet. But maybe they're far more confident in Dex. Yeah. That is an expensive keyboard, though. My goodness.
Yeah. All right. So that'll be out in a couple of weeks. I think they'll start taking pre-orders on the 23rd of this month. So, start saving your pennies. And now we would like to just remind you real briefly that you can and should watch us do the show live on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Android Police. And while you're there, you should subscribe to the podcast. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you anything, and we get money, and we can keep doing the show. And you presumably like the show because you're listening to us say this right now. And you get the Rhine emoji. People are using it in the chat room right now. They're enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, don't you want to be like them?
Yeah. You don't.
You're not doing a very good job of showing.
I know. I'm kidding. Everybody in our chat room is great, and you should definitely be there. So now that the shilling is over, we're going to talk about more Google things, more sort of leaky things. Google Play Pass, which has been rumored on and off for a while now, but it is apparently now finally becoming a thing.
Yeah. So this was a while back, I think in November or December of last year, but XDA found evidence that Google was working on some kind of app subscription service called Play Pass, and didn't really hear anything about it after that. But then we got an email from a very nice reader who sent us all these screenshots of Play Pass. And we reached out to Google to ask if it was real, and they said, yes, we're testing Play Pass. So this is kind of like what Apple announced earlier this year. Apple announced something called Apple Arcade, where it would be a monthly subscription service that gives you access to a library of mobile games. They leaned into there being exclusive mobile games. And of course, everyone got really excited over it. And Google Play Pass is kind of the same thing. So from the screenshots we have right now, it advertises hundreds of premium apps and games with no ads or in-app purchases. And some of the games that showed off was like Monument Valley and Stardew Valley and a couple other titles like that. And the subscription right now is set to $4.99 a month. It could definitely change before this is launched, or this might never launch. We don't know yet,
Yeah,
but
I'm
that's what it is
interested
right
to
now.
I'm interested to see what sort of apps they would have. I mean, so like the Apple thing is only games. This list, apps and games. Um, I don't think there were any examples of apps visible in the screens. Were there? I only saw a few on my.
There's a little carousel of app icons, but I can't tell if any of those are
Yeah.
not games.
So yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of really popular mobile games that wouldn't work with this though, because so if they're stripping out like all like the in-app purchases, like a free-to-play game like that has like a premium currency, you would instantly break the game if you just got rid of all of those. You would win immediately. Like if you had unlimited gems for whatever the
Well,
game is.
don't forget, Amazon did. I think it was called Underground,
Right.
where
They would give you like credit toward in-app purchases. But
yeah,
Google is saying
exactly.
they're going
But
to
it was a very
get
limited
rid of it.
thing, and you still had to pony up if you wanted to go
Yeah.
way beyond what they
Yeah,
were giving.
and Google says they're taking out all the in-app purchases. So I feel like these will just be like premium games and games that are like free to try and then have premium upgrades, like in the traditional
Right.
sense.
Yeah, or they could bundle in a small amount of in-game funny money with
Yeah.
your
But then
subscription.
they're saying no in-app purchases. So then would they just strip out all the in-app purchases? And at that point, like, I don't know. Frankly, those games become unplayable if you don't, put money into them.
Yeah,
Continuously.
most of them are designed
Yeah.
specifically around that. Though I would wonder if some of them might do kind of like almost kind of like a trialware version of their game, and just to try to sneak people in.
I mean, maybe, but that's a minefield,
And I doubt Google wants to do
Yeah,
that.
if Google's charging people money for this, and then they're giving them games that ask for more money, it's going to be a PR issue.
But a couple other things to note. Again, right now it says it will support a family plan. So maybe one big potential market for this could be if you're a parent and you have kids with Android tablets and you want them to stop buying in-app purchases, or maybe they want to and you're like, no, I don't want to. Now you have give them a couple dollars a month, they can just go wild.
Yeah. Kids are like, can't I buy some gems in Clash? I was like, no, we have games at home.
Yeah.
Well,
Father,
and
may
depending
I
on how
have
many
some
are in
gems?
here, like it really depends
Yeah.
on how many are in here. This could probably eat up so many hours that you shouldn't really need to leave this library.
Yeah, I bet I bet parents will again, if the app selection is good, I bet this will be a insta sell for parents, because it's like
yeah, there's definitely there's Knights of the Old Republic in there. I recognize that icon. So that by itself is many hours of fun.
Yeah, and there's also there's even Stardew Valley in here, which is $8 on its own, and the subscription right now is $5 a month. So it looks like this would be a pretty good value if they don't change the price a lot.
If you got kids and you can do this as a family plan, that is a good deal.
And it's also worth noting that this isn't like YouTube Premium, where you get the subscription and you can just get everything for free. This is just a curated library. I'm sure they have to work with developers to plug all the parts in.
It's gonna be limited. They said like the screenshots say hundreds of apps and games. Who knows exactly what that is? And you know, I think didn't one of the screenshots say something about like premium music streaming?
Not that I saw.
I do see that. Yeah. Explore a curated catalog spanning puzzle games to premium music apps and everything in between.
Wouldn't it be interesting if this got you like, I don't know, like Pandora Premium or something?
Music app. Are they when they say music
a month?
When they say music apps, are they talking about TikTok?
Yeah, that could be like almost power amp. Yeah, it could be something like that.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are working a deal with some of the music streamers, so it's kind of like a halfway. Like they'll play ads instead of charging you money, kind of thing. Like I don't know. It's hard to imagine because $5 a month can't carry you that far if you're splitting it between all these app developers plus a music streaming service or multiple music streaming services.
I think
Google presumably could, negotiate a pretty sweet deal.
The other possibility is maybe when they say premium music apps, they're just talking about their own.
I really think they're talking about like TikTok. I think TikTok has in-app purchases for like songs. If you want to put a song,
I don't even understand what TikTok is. I see GIFs on the internet.
I don't fully understand it either. I'm sure there's some parent screaming into the speaker right now because they know everything about TikTok from their children. But I'm pretty sure TikTok has in-app purchases to get like new songs for you to put in videos. I think so. Maybe that's what they're talking about. I mean, like you said, it's really hard for me to see them putting any kind of huge music subscription as part of this. I don't know. Yeah. Like there's not a lot of info right now. All we have are these screenshots, and we have Google saying it's definitely being tested.
Yeah. You know what would be cool is if you bought a Pixel 4, it just had a free Google Play Pass connected to it.
Maybe maybe this will replace the 100 gigs of Google Drive storage that used to come with all Chromebooks. Just they'll throw Play Pass in with it. Like when you buy a Google Home now, instead of coming with YouTube Music, they'll just come with Play Pass.
I mean, might as well. Whatever.
Okay, I'll raise the fantasy just a step higher. Let's just pretend for a second that they actually made this part of like the YouTube Premium thing that they already did with like when they upgraded Play Music to YouTube Premium. I don't think for a second they'll do that. I'm just saying if we're going for the dream scenario.
I mean, I just think that I think like something that costs $5 a month. If they bundle that with the Pixels, we know they're desperate to get people to buy more Pixels. That might do it.
Yeah, I bet. I bet like a kid's tablet with like a year of this included, that'd be a really easy sell.
Oh, a year, yeah.
I think Amazon does something kind of like it. I think their kids' Fire tablets come with. Amazon has like a subscription service for kids where you get like some apps and movies and TV shows, like a small selection on top of everything you get with Prime. Could be something like that. Of course, Google doesn't make tablets anymore, so
they don't. No, they're very explicit about that after the mess that was the Pixel slate.
Oh goodness!
All right, so we're just going to touch real briefly on one more thing tonight, the Switch, which we don't get to talk about a lot, but we do now because it runs Android. You can download Android for the Switch. We heard a couple days ago that this was going to happen, and then it did. So the first build is available. I think it's based on Lineage, right? It's a build of Lineage.
Yes.
Yeah. And you need an SD card to run it. It actually runs on the SD card. It doesn't touch the internal storage of the Switch, which is nice because that's harder to break your Switch. So yeah, just download. You can download the image for the Android ROM. You put it on your SD card. You slap it in the Switch. You have to have I think you have to have one of the older Switches with the unpatched hardware vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like go buy a Switch right now at the store and do this. It's if you have one of the old ones, then you can do this. And you might break it doing whatever root nonsense you need to do, in advance. But be careful if you're going to do it. But it's possible now. There's also there's an NVIDIA Shield package you can flash that makes your Android build work like the Shield TV, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I was surprised it works as well as it does, considering the Shield doesn't run. I mean, the Switch. I'm having a brain fart. I'm sorry. The Switch doesn't run Android, or I don't think anything like Android. But they were able to do.
But it has a Tegra X1 chip like the Shield.
They ported over lineage for the Nvidia Shield to this, so that's why it kind of works the same way. And like a lot of it, a lot more of this works than I thought it would. Like the Joy-Cons work detached. It works docked and undocked. Really, the only issues are like minor bugs with like sleep and stuff. And like I think the battery percentage doesn't work. But
yeah, I mean, it's so like it doesn't have sleep. Like you just turn the screen off if you put it to sleep. So you're advised to not just leave it sitting around.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it'll die.
I mean, considering wasn't made to run Android at all, that's pretty impressive. That this was probably a lot of work, and I'm sure probably fun for the people involved. But yeah, it's neat.
Yep,
it's neat.
That's the thing, and that is the end of the show. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Anything to complain about? Nope.
No.
Always many things to complain about, but we'll save that for
anything
the Q&A.
relevant to the show. Yeah. I assume not. No. Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll call it for the week. As always, you can go to androidpolice.com and read all the things that we talked about, and definitely come back every week and watch the show live. You can subscribe on twitch.tv/androidpolice, and we'll catch you next time.
Good night, everybody.